Have you ever noticed that when you toss a chicken breast into a hot skillet, it doesn't actually sear? Instead, it releases this puddle of gray, murky fluid, and before you know it, your dinner is boiling in its own juices instead of getting a nice golden crust. You probably blamed your stove, or your pan, or your cooking skills. But you didn't do anything wrong. You just got scammed at the grocery store. See, most people think that a pound of chicken is just a pound of meat. It isn't. In the vast majority of American supermarkets, you are quite literally paying chicken prices for tap water and salt. There are two specific words printed on the best poultry in the store, and if the package in your refrigerator doesn't say them, your dinner has a pretty nasty secret. Over the next few minutes, you'll find out exactly how the multi-billion-dollar poultry industry leverages legal loopholes to pad their profits by artificially inflating the weight of their birds. I'll show you the precise laboratory data and consumer investigations that expose how these practices affect your health, your wallet, and your cooking. We'll break down the specific red flag phrases that marketing departments use to distract you from the truth, and by the end of this video, you will know more than 90% of shoppers standing at the meat case. Most importantly, we are going to expose the absolute worst grocery store to buy chicken from in the entire country. And the reason it takes the #1 spot is a shocking combination of massive corporate scale and nationwide biological risk that comes near the very end. Before we name a single brand, we need to understand the fundamental physics of how a chicken gets from the farm to your kitchen, because the deception starts the exact second the bird is slaughtered. When a chicken is processed, its body temperature is around 106 degrees. To stop bacteria from multiplying, that carcass has to be cooled down to below 40 degrees incredibly fast. The industry has two ways to do this, and the choice they make determines whether you are buying food or buying a liquid illusion. The cheap way, which is how the vast majority of standard American chicken is handled, is called water chilling. The plants dump thousands of hot, freshly slaughtered birds into a massive, communal pool of ice-cold water. Think of it as a giant, crowded, lukewarm bath where every single carcass is swapping fluids, feathers, and fecal matter with every other bird in the tank. To keep this communal soup from becoming a literal biohazard, the water is heavily treated with chlorine or similar chemical antimicrobials. But here is the financial trap. While those birds are floating in that chlorinated bath, their muscle fibers act like a dry sponge. They soak up that dirty water, holding onto it all the way to the styrofoam tray. The USDA allows companies to sell chicken that contains up to 24% retained water. You are standing at the register at Walmart or Kroger, thinking you scored a great deal on a 5-pound family pack. But up to a pound of that weight is just chemical bathwater that you're going to watch steam away into nothingness the moment it hits heat. The honest alternative is called air chilling. Instead of a communal pool party, the birds are hung individually on tracks and move through a series of cold rooms blasted with purified air. It takes longer, it costs the processor more money, and it actually causes the bird to lose a tiny bit of moisture rather than soaking it up. But it means the meat that lands on your plate is clean, concentrated, and entirely chicken. It is the difference between a dry-aged steak and a wet sponge. Once you know to look for those two words, air-chilled, you realize they are proudly stamped on the good packages and completely missing from the bad ones. That single choice runs quietly through every single supermarket chain in America, separating the stores that respect your kitchen from the ones that view you as a target. Let's look at the ones failing the test. Let's start our descent into the poultry purgatory of American grocery stores, beginning with the places you might not expect, and working our way down to the ultimate offenders. First up is Target. Most people head here for laundry detergent or clothing, and the grocery section is essentially an afterthought. Because there is no active meat department, no butcher, and no fresh cutting on site, what you are buying is strictly case-ready poultry that was sealed at a distant plant weeks ago. If you look closely at their standard Good & Gather house brand, you will notice it is the textbook definition of water-chilled commodity poultry. No one in the store can tell you where that bird came from or how much water it absorbed in the chilling tank, because nobody there is minding the meat. You are trading safety and quality for pure convenience, dropping a raw bird next to your bath towels with your guard completely down. Next up is Dollar General, a chain that has quietly built an empire in rural America. In thousands of small towns, this is the only store for 30 miles, which makes its poultry selection a depressing reality. You won't find a fresh case here. Instead, you get frozen bags of chicken breasts, breaded nuggets, and Tyson-produced value packs. This chicken represents the absolute bare minimum the industrial supply chain can deliver. The packages are flashed with colorful imagery of golden cutlets, but a quick glance at the fine print reveals massive amounts of retained water and added sodium solutions designed to keep the meat from turning into leather after months in a deep freeze. If this is your only option, you are completely at the mercy of a distant corporate factory. Now for one that is going to hurt a lot of feelings, Trader Joe's. People absolutely idolize this chain for its quirky snacks and cheap wine, but when it comes to raw chicken, it has a glaring structural flaw. Trader Joe's operates entirely on a case-ready model, meaning there is zero butchery happening in the store. Every single breast, thigh, and wing is packed somewhere else, pumped into a plastic tray, and trucked across the country. A significant portion of their standard white label poultry is standard water-chilled bird. They wrap it in rustic, eco-friendly looking brown plastic that signals high quality. But underneath the clever marketing, you are buying the exact same commodity water bath bird you find at a discount warehouse. Moving on to full-scale supermarkets, Giant Eagle brings us to the next level of corporate deception. This Midwest giant has beautiful, glowing meat counters that mimic an old-school neighborhood butcher shop. But if you look at their generic value packs, you will find that the handsome display is just a front. A large percentage of their chicken is injected with a saltwater brine solution to artificially plump up the meat. They use the generational trust of their brand name to disguise the fact that you are buying industrial, water-heavy poultry. Speaking of bulk, let's talk about BJ's Wholesale Club. The entire premise of a warehouse club is that buying in bulk saves you cash. But with poultry, that giant 5-pound family pack works against you. When you buy a massive tray of water-chilled chicken that has been injected with up to 15% saltwater solution, you are multiplying the water tax by the total weight of the package. You are handing over hard-earned cash for nearly a pound of salty water that will leak into your refrigerator and steam out of your pan. If you already feel like checking your own shelf right now, hit that subscribe button, because the tactics only get more shameless from here. Look at Food Lion, a southern discount staple that competes fiercely on having the absolute lowest price on the shelf. To make chicken that cheap, you have to shave costs somewhere, and Food Lion does it by embracing the most aggressive plumping practices allowed by law. Their store-brand chicken is heavily enhanced with sodium phosphates and broth solutions. You think you are saving money, but a third of that bargain dinner literally evaporates into gray vapor the second it hits a hot skillet, making it the most expensive kind of cheap there is. Next is Meijer, a Midwestern supercenter giant that operates at a staggering volume. Meijer treats chicken like any other mass-produced commodity, stacked in endless rows somewhere between the electronics section and the garden mulch. The sheer scale means the supply chain is incredibly long, and the vast majority of their inventory consists of water-chilled, centrally processed birds with zero traceability. Stop and Shop follows the exact same corporate playbook in the Northeast. Owned by a massive international conglomerate, they rely entirely on centralized processing plants. Their legacy name makes you feel safe, but the product inside the package is the same waterlogged bird that swapped germs in a communal bath with thousands of others. Then we hit Albertsons and Safeway, which run regional banners across the entire nation. Their trick is the most frustrating because they frequently feature a full-service meat counter staffed by people in aprons. But if you ask them if they actually cut that chicken in the store, the honest answer is no. They are simply opening pre-sealed plastic cases of water-chilled, solution-injected commodity chicken and arranging them on ice to give you the illusion of artisanal craft. Aldi is loved for its rock-bottom prices, but their business model requires eliminating the butcher counter entirely. Their standard chicken is case-ready, water-chilled, and heavily enhanced to maintain a fresh appearance across an ultra-lean supply chain. That brings us to Walmart, the biggest grocer in the world. Walmart moves more poultry than almost anyone else, and they do it by squeezing every single fraction of a cent out of the process. Their great value chicken is the ultimate expression of the mass-market commodity bird. It is water-chilled at maximum speed in giant communal vats, heavily injected with brine and shipped nationwide. It is a completely anonymous, water-heavy unit of protein designed for maximum profit. But even Walmart gets beaten by the #1 worst offender on our list, Kroger. Kroger is one of the largest traditional grocery chains in America, and they distribute store-brand poultry under their Heritage Farm and Kroger labels by the trainload. Here is why they take the crown. Selling raw chicken that carries salmonella is entirely legal in the United States, and consumer advocacy groups like Consumer Reports have repeatedly flagged high contamination levels in major industrial processing plants. When you take that biological reality and pair it with a corporate system as massive as Kroger's, sourcing water-chilled birds from giant pooled supply networks, the risk multiplies exponentially. If a bad batch enters a system that large, it doesn't just affect one local neighborhood, it spreads across entire regions into millions of kitchens. The massive scale, the communal water baths that facilitate cross-contamination, and the legal allowance of pathogens combine to make their high-volume, water-heavy commodity poultry the absolute most problematic choice for your family's kitchen. And now, what it was worth watching all the way through for. Enough with the warnings and the corporate horror stories. It is time for some real relief, because the next 4 stores prove that you do not have to settle for watery, chlorinated poultry. These retailers have actively chosen a completely different business model, putting real money into sourcing, testing, and actual human craftsmanship instead of relying on chemical tricks to inflate their bottom line. When you buy chicken from these locations, you are getting exactly what you pay for. Real, honest food that cooks beautifully, tastes incredible, and doesn't shrink to half its size the second it touches a hot pan. Let's start with the most accessible high-volume option on the positive side of the ledger, Costco. It might surprise you to see a massive warehouse club on the good list after we just took a hammer to the bulk buying model. But Costco is a very different animal. Behind those massive multi-packs sits one of the most aggressive, expensive, and scientifically rigorous pathogen testing programs in the entire commercial food industry. Costco routinely checks its poultry supply for harmful bacteria at a frequency that leaves standard regional supermarkets completely in the dust, and they have a proven track record of pulling products off the line if even a shadow of a doubt arises. Alongside their standard value packs, they have made a massive corporate push to stock organic and verified air-chilled chicken across the country. When you buy their air-chilled breasts, you can instantly see the difference. The skin is tight and yellowish rather than translucent and slimy, and when you cook it, the pan stays completely dry while the meat gets a gorgeous, deep brown sear. The only real downside here is the sheer volume. Handling a massive 6-pound package of raw poultry requires immediate portioning and freezing the second you get home to maintain a sterile kitchen environment. Moving up the ladder, we hit Publix. This is exactly what a traditional neighborhood meat department is supposed to look like. Step up to a Publix meat counter and you will find an actual, living human being wearing an apron who knows how to use a knife. They do not just pull pre-sealed plastic trays off a distributor's truck and shove them onto a shelf. They receive high-quality birds and actively trim, cut, and prepare them right there on the floor. If you want a chicken breast cut to a specific thickness, or if you want a whole bird broken down into clean quarters, they will do it for you on the spot. This level of service completely eliminates the anonymity of the industrial supply chain. You can look a professional in the eye and ask exactly when the poultry arrived and where it came from, and you will get a straight answer. Yes, you might pay a slight premium per pound compared to a discount warehouse, but you are paying for actual human labor and skilled butchery, which means you carry home perfectly trimmed meat with zero hidden brine solutions. Next is the Fresh Market, which elevates poultry sourcing to a genuine craft. This boutique chain operates on a strict philosophy of quality over quantity. Every single location maintains a full-service butcher counter staffed by experts throughout the day. The birds they source are held to rigorous agricultural standards that put ordinary supermarket labels to shame. Their chicken is raised completely antibiotic-free, fed a 98% vegetarian diet, and certified by independent animal welfare programs that enforce real living space and humane treatment. In practice, this completely transforms the sensory experience of the meat. The texture of a fresh market chicken breast is firm, tight, and naturally juicy, completely free of the pale, fatty streaks or the rubbery, woody textures that plague fast-grown commodity birds. It is undeniably the most expensive option among our recommendations, and they wear that premium price tag openly. You are paying for a superior, slower-grown animal and artisanal hand trimming, making it the ideal choice when quality is your absolute non-negotiable priority. Finally, taking the #1 spot as the absolute best place to buy chicken in America is Sprouts Farmers Market. The reason Sprouts wins this countdown is beautifully simple. They took the ultimate solution to the industrial poultry problem and made it the everyday standard. Sprouts carries certified air-chilled organic chicken in every single one of its stores as a primary offering, not a rare luxury item you have to hunt for in a specialty aisle. Because these birds are cooled exclusively by purified air, they never enter a communal water bath, Never swap fluids with thousands of other carcasses, and never absorb a single drop of chlorinated water. Every single ounce you pay for at the register is pure, honest meat. Sprouts pairs this impeccable sourcing with an open, active butcher counter staffed by team members who cut to order and maintain strict standards against artificial plumping or hidden sodium solutions. And here is the real triumph that earns them the crown. They do it without charging a fortune. Sprouts prices its air-chilled poultry remarkably close to what traditional supermarkets charge for their waterlogged commodity trays. They have effectively democratized clean, honest food, proving that protecting your family from hidden industrial water taxes doesn't require a luxury budget. To navigate the grocery case entirely on your own terms, you need a set of bulletproof rules that cut straight through the marketing noise. First, look for the words air-chilled explicitly stamped on the primary label, or bypass the cut-up trays entirely and buy a whole bird. Whole chickens are significantly cheaper per pound at places like Costco or Safeway. They are handled far less by factory machinery, and they completely insulate you from the hidden water-chilling tax. Second, turn the package over to check the fine print for an added solution line. If you see phrases like enhanced with up to 15% broth or retained water, put it back and look for a package where the only listed ingredient is chicken. Third, use a reliable digital meat thermometer to verify that your poultry has reached exactly 165 degrees in its thickest part every single time, completely ignoring deceptive indicators like meat color or juice clarity. Fourth, treat every single raw bird as a live biohazard from the moment it enters your cart. Keep it sealed in its own plastic bag away from fresh produce, and never wash or rinse it in your sink, which only aerosolizes surface bacteria and splatters pathogens across your countertops. Fifth, treat flashy visual callouts like no hormones added as pure marketing decoration, remembering that federal law has banned the use of growth hormones in all American poultry production for decades. When you step back and look at the entire landscape, it becomes obvious that the industrial food system is meticulously engineered to prioritize speed, weight, and corporate margins over the integrity of your dinner. The multi-billion-dollar grocery business functions under the quiet assumption that you will select your food based entirely on the lowest number on the price tag and the friendliest words on the front of the package. But the moment you shift your focus from the front of the tray to the hard data on the back, you instantly break the cycle of marketing manipulation and reclaim absolute control over your kitchen. Thank you so much for investing your time with us today to dig into what is really happening behind the grocery glass. If you have a friend or family member who still buys those giant, soggy value packs and wonders why their chicken always turns out rubbery, please share this video with them right now so they can finally stop paying for